I'm joined now by Francois Adriaan of ASISA, which stands for the Association of.
Savings Investment South Africa.
Correct, you're right.
I passed.
Francois, welcome and thanks for joining us here at the EBnet studio at the 2025 IRFA conference. If I may, when I was here last year, I'm not certain I saw ASISA. You here this year? Do you have a stand?
We do have a stand. We were here last year as well, maybe a little bit under the radar.
Right.
This time around, we're a lot more on top of the radar. So our stand, we're doing a lot of engagements with trustees, and they're coming up and they, completing some competitions and winning some stuff. But I think it was important for us to be at this particular conference because a lot of the work that the ASISA Foundation and the ASISA Academy do is around supporting trustees. And it's kind of the dual thing around supporting trustees to be able to understand their fiduciary responsibilities. But it's also around how do we ensure that at a member level, members of pension fund trustees are also enjoying a kind of a better level of education and understanding. So we do quite a bit of that sort of engagement.
So maybe just expand on that first of all from a trustee perspective. What is it that you guys are doing, and then how does that filtering through to the members? And are there any specific initiatives that you're undertaking in that regard?
Yeah, so the ASISA is an industry association. So all of the life insurance companies and all of the asset management companies make up our membership base. But we've got a responsibility to the bigger ecosystem in terms of our sector and our industry and larger society. And that responsibility kind of plays out in the form of the ASISA Foundation and the ASISA Academy in particular. So these are two independent entities that sit within ASISA. And really what we do is we aggregate resources and we use those resources to focus on consumer financial literacy. That's kind of what we effectively call it. So the Academy has developed a host of courses. So courses that are led by what are the needs in the industry, what are kind of member companies saying they need to be able to kind of strengthen skills within the industry. And then the foundation uses resources to be able to focus on vulnerable groups. And one of the areas where there are vulnerable groups would be in the pension fund space. So at the member level, trustees are responsible for kind of effective support of members. So they need to make sure that members are able to retire comfortably, that they're able to, when there's an event, that they're able to get the money that's been set aside for them. So we run a host of very bespoke courses for trustees. So to help trustees understand their fiduciary responsibility, to help trustees understand investment principles, to help them understand admin costs. We've just added a new course around cyber risk, which is becoming quite a big thing within our particular industry. And we effectively offer these courses, this sounds bizarre, at no cost. Because the costs are covered by our member companies that have put money kind of into the foundation.
And those member companies, is that the asset management fraternity in South Africa?
It would be the range of asset managers, life insurance. There'd be some kind of administrators and fund managers that form part of that as well. So for them, it's around their kind of stepping up to their responsibility within society.
Right. Well, you mentioned cybersecurity, which is obviously a key aspect today with the Joint Standard 2. But another theme that I'm seeing coming through, and we see it here at the IRFA conference as well, is around building resilience, and a lot of talk within the speakers around impact and so on. Is ASISA helping trustees understand what impact is and what the impact of impact investing could be?
Absolutely. We just came out of one of the sessions now with the opening kind of panel discussion, and it was amazing how much we're talking about ESG and how much we're talking about impact, and at what level is that, if we're looking at infrastructure investment, for example, is it at the micro level in terms of in communities, or is it at the macro level? And a lot of that interesting engagement is happening. And it was quite meaningful when some of the panelists were saying, yes, we need to be able to ensure that pension fund members understand that they're going to get their money back when it's required, but at the same time, they need to understand where their money is being invested. And they also need to understand how it's making a difference in their communities, in the short term and for the duration of while they're within that pension fund. So we've got a whole host of courses that we offer. One of them, for example, is investment fundamentals. So helping new trustees in particular wrap their heads around what are the investment fundamentals, what are the different asset classes, what do they look like, understanding that a bit better, what are the risk profiles associated with all of them. And then when they have discussions with their fund managers, to be able to have meaningful engagements, to say diversified portfolios for argument's sake, but you also need to have this kind of element of infrastructure and kind of social investment, which forms part of your kind of inherent investment portfolio.
So it's interesting. I was having a debate with a trustee the other day where he said to me their biggest risk is ensuring that their members retire with sufficient capital. And I challenged him to say, your biggest risk is making sure members retire with sufficient capital into an environment within which they can enjoy that capital in their retirement. Because what's the point of retiring into political unrest or whatever else might be happening? So the concept of infrastructure development, impact investing in South Africa, given our past and given where we are right now, is absolutely critical. So I'm just hoping that all the talk around impact is real impact and not just the marketing veneer of impact.
I get a sense, hearing what people are saying at the conference in particular, there's an intent around the impact being real impact and being sustainable impact. But at the same time, there's a bit of nervousness around the fact that this is probably a relatively new space, because in the past it was our focus was almost solely on financial returns, and the kind of the concept that you've just raised is the one that's starting to, over the last 10 years or so, that started to kind of diffuse itself into our thinking. A while ago I worked at Sanlam, and one of the conversations we were having, in that particular space was exactly what you've said, and the mindset was. The example that a particular senior leader they used was, there's no point in having someone retire into a society with a roll of toilet paper that they can't afford, because society is falling apart and there's kind of social contracts have been kind of completely decimated, and their money is not worth, they don't have the ability to even buy that roll of toilet paper. So I think there's a lot of, so if a large institution like Sanlam, and there are a lot of others that have taken on board this whole ESG thing, I think it was a very kind of sexy thing to be talking about in the past, but it feels more like people are being held to account now in terms of the E is a capital E, and I think across the world we kind of understand that. We need to be looking at environmental impact and sustainability associated there, but it always tends to be a capital E. Because we work within this particular industry, governance is a major thing. So that G tends to be a kind of a major G. In the past, that S was kind of a tiny S, and it's only now, over the last 10 years or so, that across the world and in South Africa in particular, we're starting to take that S seriously, and we're starting to look at, what is the impact that we have in local communities. So the money that we're aggregating, the trillions of rands that sits within pension funds, to what extent is that money building basic infrastructure that can ensure jobs in small townships? And, it's fine to go to the large metropolitan kind of areas, but it's kind of the small, difficult to reach places where there's a real need for investment that's going to kind of have the jobs spin off.
Yeah, but that need is, we catering for a need in those areas which will ultimately result in a return. So the concept of it's philanthropy and you may be giving up return is a false one, provided it's ultimately facilitated and executed in the right manner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it needs to be both. It needs to be financial return, because you don't want a pension fund member to kind of come to you at the point where they've got a need, and you say, well, hang on, your funds have been underperforming and we actually can't kind of fulfill that commitment that we've made to you in terms of returning that money to you with growth. But at the same time, you can't say to that person, you live within a particular community or you work within a particular sector, and your sector is completely decimated in terms of jobs. I mean, depending on who you ask, we're looking at about a 45% job unemployment rate. We're looking at the kind of youth demographic in South Africa and in Africa kind of being quite significant over the next while. And if your kids are not getting jobs and not getting the opportunity to be employed, as an employed person yourself, the question you need to be asking is, so how is my pension fund money being invested for the greater good? Yeah. I want the money back when I need it, but at the same time, I want the greater good to be looked after for my kids in particular.
Yeah, I think the legacy is so important. Man, kids are suffering from anxiety increasingly these days, and part of it is because they know that the old days of go to university, get a job, it's just not that easy any longer. And they're well aware of things like that. So I think our generation, the trustees of pension funds, we have, I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but we definitely need to contribute in that regard. So I'm very pleased to see this heightened awareness. It's just around the execution. So anyway, you have a stand here. And what is it the message that you want to give to the attendees of the conference at your stand, and why should they come see you? What's in it for them?
Yeah, thanks, Leon. I need to do a bit of a plug for the stand. So we're in the area D4, which is where all the, I think it's typified, it's called the kind of community impact space. So we've got a few other of the kind of charities that are in that space. We're not quite a charity, we are not for profit. Because as I explained to you, the services that we're providing to the sector is funded elsewhere, but it's free to trustees. And what we're trying to do is to engage with trustees to say, yeah, we've got 20 or 30 odd courses that we offer. And these are workshop courses, these are kind of face-to-face as well as online courses. Do these things meet all your needs? Are there areas that we maybe are not picking up on, and give us that feedback so we can look at how we can potentially incorporate that? And by the way, we can help you clean up your act as well. Clean up your act from the perspective that we're giving away, laptop screen cleaners and cell phone screen cleaners and those sorts of things. But I mean, that's by the by. The big thing for us is to be able to engage with trustees, either ones that have been on one of our different courses. And over we've been doing this for about 12 years now. For the last 12, 13 years, we've been able to reach significant numbers of trustees. So every time I bump into somebody, over a cup of coffee here, one of the questions I'd ask them is, have you been on one of our courses? And I've yet to find somebody that says, I don't know who you are, and I've never been on one of your courses. And it's nice to have that kind of feedback. The next level of feedback is, so how is this engagement with us, how has it shifted your levels of knowledge, your levels of understanding, and the way that you show up in your board meetings? Yeah. That's far more important. Are you able to engage with your asset manager? Are you able to engage with your employer appointed trustees in a meaningful way, with the level of understanding that you can make kind of meaningful change within this space?
Okay, well, I encourage all of our viewers to go across and visit ASISA at stand D4, you said?
D4 it is, thank you.
And your website address is?
www.asisa.org.za.
Oh, that's close there. Almost forgot. At our age, that's reasonable. Anyway, I wish you all the best. I hope you enjoy the conference over the next 2 days. And also, please go to www.ebnet.co.za. Under Innovation and Technology, you will see the Evolutionary Awards for 2025, where ASISA are one of the entrants into one of those evolutionary categories. You can view the details of the entry, and at the EBnet Evolutionaries online conference from 6th to 10th of October, you're able to come there, view a video from ASISA, and vote for them to win the 2025 award. On that note, Francois, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Lovely to have you here, and we wish you all the best.
Cool. Keep well.
Cheers, Ed.
Thanks.